Welcome back to another sci-fi episode where psychology and finances collide. Today we're going to be talking about a topic that is pretty heavy, at least in the military and Department of Defense. But for all you civilians out there who listen, this is also something that you would benefit from. When we think of financial threats and we think of threat awareness in general, a lot of times we don't think about financial threats. But in the civilian world, that's usually thought of in consumer awareness and understanding the different identity thieves and different scams that are out there. And I think the FBI does a great job by keeping us posted on the latest and worst scams available. But also a lot of seniors are targeted. So many groups like AARP and other entities will help protect us from those outsider threats. But today's talk is going to be examining how we think, feel, and behave with money as it pertains to our money, our defense, and outsmarting financial threats. I got this idea from a security manager here at Redstone Arsenal who had the ingenious idea of incorporating financial readiness and financial concepts into threat awareness so that he would have less folks coming in for security clearance issues related to finances. So today I'll be talking about insider financial threats, outsider financial threats, financial threat mitigation, and tools and resources that will help you through that process. So let's first talk about what an insider financial threat is. Well, you may not think of it this much, but marriage. Let's think of marriage as in The Princess Bride, right? So marriage, before you even come together for that matrimony, you are bringing two subcultures together. And unless you examine each other's subculture, and just a shameless plug, I do provide premarital financial counseling. It's always a win-win situation for newlyweds or for those that have just gotten engaged. So let me talk a little bit about debt. If you did not check your fiance's credit report before coming into the marriage, I feel for you. If you were smart enough to check that credit report before coming in to the marriage, I applaud you. Now, a lot of folks, when I talk to them about this, they kind of do a little side eye, like, did she really just say that? Does she really expect me to show you my credit report? Yes. And that's what we call financial intimacy. Before you get married, there's all kinds of talk and intimate talk about how many kids you want, how are we going to see parents, how are we going to do these other things, which are all great topics. And you'll be bearing all, hopefully, on the honeymoon night. So why not go ahead and bear all when it comes to your finances as well? And that's what a credit report can do for the both of you. And now, as you view that credit report, you can see instantly if this person that you are agreeing to marry will become an insider financial threat. Does this person have a lot of financial red flags? How much over-indebtedness is there? Are there any charge-off? Are there any charge-offs, or are there any collections that are there on the credit report? You don't have to be a certified credit report reviewer to know how to review a credit report. You just go through it, eyes wide open, and everything will be revealed to you. So you can go through and see what those red flags might be. And then you can also decide from there, am I willing to take the risk that comes with this financial baggage? If you're not, perhaps you just push the wedding back a couple months or even a couple years or maybe even 1 year to give that person the opportunity to clean up their finances before you tie the knot. Because whoever you marry, you are agreeing to take on everything of theirs. Now, granted, it doesn't mean their debt automatically becomes joint debt, but eventually it usually does. So let's say you want to buy a house together, and that's been a dream of yours for a long time. But because of this person's credit report or credit score, it may keep you from attaining those financial goals that you've had all your life. So that's just another area to explore. I'm not saying that you can't marry someone who has debt, but you could at least review the debt together. Here's another insider financial threat, is when there's a partnership without commitment. Marriage is one thing, but when you go into a partnership and there's no legal binding whatsoever to this individual, if you buy a house together, who is on that mortgage? Is that a joint debt for both of you? How many joint debts are you willing to take on with someone when the courts do not even see you as being legally responsible for that? So that's just something to consider as well. And then there are some significant emotional events that occur that are considered insider financial threats. And that includes divorce, death, illness, job loss. Those are big ones. Those are the ones we primarily think of. But if you go through a divorce and you aren't understanding what you are responsible for jointly, how will that impact your credit? How will that impact your financial well-being? Death of a loved one. Was there estate planning that had occurred prior to? Were there designations of beneficiary where you were named as the beneficiary and not a previous spouse or a mother or a father? Making sure that you look at your spouse's beneficiaries or designation of beneficiaries to see if your name is on those, so that you are not financially destitute should something happen to yourself or to that person. And then illness, that's a big one. How many days of leave do you have for sick leave or for PTO or annual leave, whatever we call it in our society? How much time do you have to buy if you were to get sick for a week or for 6 months? It's nice to know what your plan will be, your backup plan for those significant emotional events. And then, of course, job loss. And a lot of us are a little rattled with what's going on lately. I mean, a lot of good things that are happening too, but I think what we're hearing is no one is safe when it comes to job security. And it's nice if we can work hard, do our best, and show our worth so that we can maintain job security. But at the same time, you can be one of the best employees, but maybe you do not get to keep your job because of a reduction in force or because of other things that must happen in order to make a system work more efficiently. So all these things to consider now before they become crisis situations. Then you have another insider threat. And here's the big one, and I'm about to step on toes. And that is me, myself, and I. Whether it's financial mismanagement or you don't have the guardrail set up, like you don't have emergency savings or you don't have adequate insurance, whether it's car, life, medical, health, you name it. Over indebtedness is an insider threat, especially for those who have to maintain security clearances. And that's not just for military members and Department of Defense civilians. That's for a lot of other folks, contractors, or folks that even work in private organizations and corporations where their credit reports are monitored for obvious reasons. They don't want you to sell information to pay off your debts. So watch that indebtedness. Overspending is a huge insider threat. In many ways, that's what leads to over-indebtedness. Gambling or other addictive behavior. Then we have outsider threats. And of course, that's the hackers, scammers, identity thieves, predatory lenders, barred or dishonest brokers. By the way, you can do a check on FINRA.org, FINRA.org, and do a barred broker check to see if the financial advisor that you're working with is legitimate and not barred from practice. So here's a list of unsuspected outsider threats. We just reviewed those that many people will think of, but here are the unsuspected ones. A non-fiduciary advisor. And non-fiduciary is someone who does not have your best interest at heart, but the firm's best interest at heart. So they may be selling you products or investments that are good for the firm, but not necessarily good for you. Debt settlement companies. They don't have your best interests at heart. Many times they're actually asking for these high fees just to take your case, and they don't report to the credit bureau. So if you have a clearance issue and your employer is checking your credit report periodically to make sure that you're taking care of these things, if they are not reporting to the credit bureau, then it looks like you've done nothing. So you need to be careful with that. Be buyer aware, consumer aware, do your research. It's the same with credit repair companies. By the way, what credit repair companies claim they say they can do for you, many times they cannot do for you. They say they will get rid of information on your credit report. If you had negative information on your credit report, and even when you fix it and make it better, that history will remain on your credit report no matter what you do. Nobody can take that off at all, not even an attorney, unless it was disputed properly and the credit reporting bureau found that that was not your debt. But these are all things that you can do on your own. The same with debt settlement. You can do a lot of those things on your own. Everything that they're claiming they can do for you, you can do for yourself. But don't Google it, don't YouTube it, because you may not get the best information. Make sure you are searching reputable sites for that information. And the same for tax settlement companies. If you have issues with your taxes or you owe back taxes, the best thing you can do is get with an enrolled agent or certified public accountant or a CPA. Folks that are steeped in tax code and that can truly help you and even go back and correct any previous taxes that maybe need to be repaired as well. And then you have another outsider threat, which is unregulated financial practice. One of those is cryptocurrency. And the reason I bring that up is the FBI provided a report with how many scams there were just related to cryptocurrency because it's not yet regulated. I understand that they are attempting and they're trying to get that regulated soon, but until that happens, please be aware of that unsuspected outsider threat. And if you don't even understand what you're investing in fully, you might want to just bypass that. And here's another one, the bigger one that I see in the counseling session. The bigger unsuspected outsider threat is your family. They are living with you. They are having dinner with you. They are the closest people to you. And they're one of the bigger outsider threats. And not just because they may steal your identity and take out loans in your name. That's not really what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the family members who have the puppy dog eyes and ask you for everything and you continue to say yes. You can find a way to say no, set financial boundaries with your family, and not just your immediate family, even extended family, where you might have to tell someone, I'm not able to assist you financially because I'm responsible for paying my own bills. And that leads us into financial threat mitigation. And that's the first bullet point that I have for you is pay your bills and not others. So whatever you are financially responsible for, what you're financially liable for, you definitely should be paying those bills first. Now, it's nice if you have a surplus and after you've paid your bills, you've met all your financial obligations, you've put money in savings, you put money in your 401k, you've planned for retirement, and then you have a surplus after that. Perhaps you can treat that as charitable giving. But outside of that, make sure you're paying your bills. And here's another thing for financial threat mitigation. Expect the best and plan for the worst. And this is where we need to establish those guardrails. I lived in Colorado for 4 years, and I remember going on the mountain passes, and there were some pretty sketchy roads out there, high altitude, without guardrails in place. And that was probably the most nerve-wracking thing I've ever experienced. And I still have nightmares about it, especially going up vertically on a mountain without any guardrails in place. That's what we need to do with emergency savings, estate planning, and adequate insurance coverage. That becomes our guardrails. That's what gives that sense of stability. And it also gives us that opportunity to go a little faster with our finances because we feel safer as a result of having those guardrails in place. Here's one thing I like. So everyone knows the expression, loose lips sink ships. Well, if you're providing confidential or classified information, that could be detrimental to national security. But in this talk, I'm going to use the quote, tight lips sink ships. So if you are closed mouth and you are not revealing to your family or to your security manager or to your spouse that you are experiencing financial issues, then it's only going to get deeper and darker for you. So it is actually considered favorable when it comes to security managers to self-report when you are having issues. But it is considered unfavorable when you try to hide it. And I would say that is the same in a marriage. If you keep something from your spouse, it will not be favorable for you financially or emotionally, psychologically, you name it. So let's make sure that we're communicating what's going on. And here's some other financial threat mitigation tools. Number one, exposure therapy. I need to help get you to a place where you're comfortable looking at the numbers, gathering the numbers, and exposing you to your own data, the thing that you've been fearing for so long, and probably the reason you're having issues with a security clearance or with your credit report is because you were afraid to approach the numbers, but instead, we are going to approach them together. And that's through a cash flow analysis, a net worth statement. These are all things. Now, I would encourage you to Google cash flow analysis, net worth. You can pull up many online versions, but just don't pay for anything. There's no reason to do that. You can always just print a picture and start from there, but at least it will provide you some direction on where to go. And then, of course, a spend plan. And I don't like to use the B word, but another word for that is budget, but that implies restriction. So instead, I like to use the word spend plan so that now you're assigning every dollar a job and you actually feel like there's forward movement and there's hope and expectation attached to that verbiage. Annualcreditreport.com is probably one of the better threat mitigation tools that you can use. When I talked about looking at your spouse's credit report, I'm not just talking about the credit score. I'm talking about looking at the full credit report that is available for free, no credit card needed at all at any time. Annualcreditreport.com. You can pull a free credit report once a week if you wanted to, which is in good practice, especially if you're paying down debt and you want to make sure that it is being reported to the credit bureaus. PowerPay debt reduction is another free tool that you can use to learn how to snowball debt payments or avalanche debt payments so that you can finally get to yourself a debt repayment plan and see visually what those numbers are. And a lot of times that visual is enough to get you motivated. Emergency savings, big mitigation tool here. You need some level of financial cushion to pad those financial crises that will occur. Not maybe, but will occur. I've already talked about finra.org. Not only are they great for the broker check, but they're also great for investment education and to help you understand what scams are out there at that moment. And don't forget that you are a threat mitigation tool. And that means setting boundaries with people. No is a sentence. And this also includes financially socializing your children, maybe even your spouse. And this isn't a patriarchal thing. It could be a wife who's teaching her husband how to manage the finances. Or it could be a husband teaching the wife how to manage the finances. Or you may have different tasks that you both bring to the table collaboratively. Maybe one handles the investments where the other is handling the taxes, or you both have a joint checking account or separate accounts where there's a spend plan involved and you're meeting monthly to talk about that spend plan so that you know where each other is going. Another thing that I'll say about financial socialization is ensuring that your kids, it is not a bad thing to talk about money. And it's not even a bad thing to argue a little bit about money in front of the kids. Now, within reason, of course, but it is actually healthy to normalize for your kids that finances are not that easy. They can be over time once you understand it, once you've built financial knowledge, once you've built financial skill, and now you're financially literate. So it can be, but it's also good for kids to know that, hey, if I want to give myself the best leg up in becoming financially independent, I want to learn something about finances. I want to learn what the APR is going to be if I take a cash advance out on this credit card that was sent to me at the tender age of 18. What is that going to cost me? Little things like that. Accountability. That's another thing that you are in absolutely control of. Maybe you have an accountability partner in your spouse, or maybe your financial counselor, your tax advisor, your certified financial planner. It could be a number of different people, but seek that accountability partner. And then the continual exposure therapy, making sure that you're revisiting this monthly. Now, here's some more financial threat mitigation tools. Of course, we know about antiviral software, phone locks, and yes, your cute little 2-year-old who is absolutely adorable is considered an outside financial threat if you've not put a lock on your phone and they're buying things left and right because they have no idea what they're pushing, what buttons they're pushing. So be careful with that. Digital encryption, multi-factor authentication, and never saving passwords online. Thinking twice, especially before saving credit card information online. I can't tell you how many credit cards I've had to cancel and have reissued because of an identity theft with my credit card information, because I used to save my credit card information online, and since having to cancel 3 times, now I no longer do it, and I've not had any issues since not saving that credit card information online. So be leery of that. Tighten up your passwords, which, by the way, you can go back and dispute a charge. You just have to know that there's something to dispute. So that means watching every pay or credit statement that comes out monthly, making sure that you're looking to see, are these my charges? If they're not, you get to dispute it. And that was the only way I discovered that. And usually they start off with smaller charges to test it. So be careful with that. And if I didn't mention already, make sure you tighten up your passwords. Using the name of your cat or using password with $signs probably isn't the best way to tighten up those passwords. Then let's talk about resources. You do have regulated professionals. And the reason I say regulated professionals is because more and more people are going to YouTube, they're going to Google, they're also going to influencers to provide them information. But that is an unregulated individual. They may not even have a professional status. Those are unregulated individuals that may not have the best information for you. So my best advice to you, or education, is to seek regulated professionals, such as a fiduciary certified financial planner, a CPA or an enrolled agent, accredited financial counselor, a registered investment advisor. These are brokers that are bound by a code of ethics, and you can even check whether they are practicing legitimately through the barred broker check. And then also FINRA education is something that you can use as well. Now, what I hope that you do with this information is that you take it back to your family, you have conversations about it, and you especially talk about those things that you've been meaning to talk about, and you finally open up and talk about it. And you really do increase that financial intimacy with your partner by bearing all financially. Before I go, let me provide a shameless plug for the 3rd annual Financial Symposium, where this year it will be made available in hybrid form. So for those that are here at Redstone Arsenal, we would love to see you register and attend in person. But for those who can only make a couple classes, it's available to you hybrid, where you can do both in person and online. And it's also available for those that want to join online exclusively. And if you're coming in person, bring a date, bring your spouse, bring your adult child who's 18 years or older who could get some really good information from this. I'm going to be talking about your financial ecosystem, providing the science behind spending, saving, and giving. There are going to be classes on estate planning, and there will be giveaways, goodie bags, and all the fanfare of an in-person event. But be sure you show for registration at 8 a.m. First class starts at 8:30. Goodie bags are first come, first serve, but part of that goodie bag will include the book, Happy Money, a wonderful tool and resource for you to use. And if you found this information helpful today, be sure to rate and review us wherever you listen to the pod. Thank you so much.